She upset millions of Americans and made millions in the process. Then, the most hated woman in America suddenly vanished. Did she steal away to a foreign country with embezzled funds, or did her bombastic advocacy get her killed? This week's episode is The Murder of Madalyn Murray O'Hair, Part 2. Sinisterhood. We're getting to it. This is where it starts to get crosses and double crosses and all kinds of stuff.
It's crazy that I never heard of this story until because she was such like a pioneer in the atheist movement. And also, this is bananas what's about to happen.
Yes. And especially that it was such a lengthy process from disappearing, where we ended at part 1, to when we sort of find out what happens, just as far as like, for a person that has that high a public profile, you're right. It is like weird that we don't know more about this.
What was the baby that got taken?
Baby Jessica? No, she fell down a well.
She was rescued. She fell down a well. The Lindbergh baby, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, so, I'm not comparing Madalyn Murray O'Hair to the Lindbergh baby, but something like that, where it's like, how can this go on for so long and it's such a high profile thing and no one knows who did it?
Right. And to a person who everybody knows their name, like you're on Phil Donahue or Johnny Carson or whatever. So
where's Johnny Carson? He needs to be out there searching for his bestie.
Yeah. And Phil Donahue, y'all dropped the ball. What the fuck?
Well, we do know what's happened now.
Oh, yeah.
And here it comes. Here's what went down.
It's like, we know, but do we? I'm excited for, so what do we think, for sure?
All right. Well, I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
And let's get into it. The oldest of 5 boys, David Roland Waters, was born in 1947. While there aren't many details of his early years, it's clear that Waters did not have an easy childhood. Starting at an early age, he was in and out of juvenile detention and foster care. Then, at just 17 years old, Waters committed a chilling act that would foreshadow the brutality to come. He murdered another teenager, beating him to death with a fence post in a fit of rage. It was a savage personal crime, one that earned him a prison sentence and marked the beginning of a long, troubling pattern.
And he was born, if I'm not mistaken, near Chicago, and his mom was only like 14 or 15, was kind of sitting outside, and a 20-something-year-old guy walked by, made eyes at her, and that's how he was conceived. And then she later went into sex work. And so I think he carried a lot on his shoulders from that, and certainly turned quite a corner, especially at 17.
At such a young age, and such a visceral, personal way to end someone's life.
He also physically abused his mom, at least in one incident, just beat her up, pushed her down the stairs, and urinated on her. So just that kind of thing where it's like a lack of respect for women. And he was a charming guy, everybody said, but would have this turn toward violence.
Yeah. Over the years, Waters cycled through the criminal justice system, racking up convictions for theft, burglary, and assault. He had a knack for manipulation and could present himself as intelligent and trustworthy when it suited him. Despite his record, he managed to drift through society without drawing too much attention, until he crossed paths with one of America's most controversial public figures. In the early 1990s, Waters found work with Madalyn Murray O'Hair. Bold, combative, and fiercely intelligent, Madalyn was a polarizing figure. She also had a reputation for loyalty to those within her inner circle, something Waters was quick to exploit.
And he said whenever he went to interview with them that it was kind of just like weird vibes, that he wanted to meet her because he respected her ability to debate. He respected her intelligence. But then he said he sat across from her and thought, why do people in the public eye dress this badly? Like they just kind of like frumpy-ish, I guess, and like kind of wore muumuus a lot around the office and stuff. And he was almost like shocked. Like you see somebody on TV and then you meet him in person. You're like, oh, okay, that's what we're working with here.
Well, fuck you, because what I wear around my house is quite different from what I wear if I go on the Johnny Carson show.
Exactly. It makes me think of Taylor Swift being like, sorry that I'm making noise in the house I bought with the songs that I wrote. It's like, sorry, I'm wearing my muumuu in my office with the money I raised with my cause.
You get to wear whatever you want when you own your own business. That's the perk.
Hey.
In 1995, it was discovered that Waters had embezzled more than $50,000 from the organization. Madalyn didn't just fire him, she exposed him. In a scathing write-up published in the American Atheist newsletter, she detailed his theft and included the most damning information of all, his violent criminal past, including the brutal killing from his teenage years.
Well, and at the time that he took the plea because he alleged, well, I didn't actually steal the money. He did, first of all. It was just bearer bonds. He went in and took them. But when he not only did he take them, he took them. It wasn't bearer bonds. Sorry, it was checks. He wrote them to cashed them. And then he drove to Vegas where he spent it on not gambling. Nay. He bought a $700 leather jacket with the roulette wheel on it.
Nice.
Some Italian shirts, some leather vests, and, quote, a Stevie Ray Vaughan style black cowboy hat.
You know what? He knew what his style was, and he had just been waiting to come into money to get all that.
Let's go, girls.
Yeah.
He's going straight
He wasn't going to play roulette, but he was sure going to make everybody think he did with that sweet-ass jacket.
So as early 1995, he kept saying, well, they're all going to move. They've been moving money around. They were out of town for a trial in California. While they were out of town, he laid everyone off, stole this money. And then when the cops finally caught up to him in April 95, he kind of turns himself in. He's like, oh, they told me to clean the bank accounts out and keep a percentage for myself because they're moving to New Zealand and they're to abscond with illegal money. And basically the DA was like, I can't prove you did or didn't. I can't prove they did or didn't. Let's just work out a deal because a trial is probably not going to be good for anybody. And Madalyn was fine with the trial because for her, she was like, I'll just blast his ass on my newsletter. So he got 10 years deferred adjudication saying you could face up to 99 years for what, because it's a lot of money to steal. But if you keep your nose clean for 10 years, then you won't go to jail. And that was April of 95. So 10 years, all you have to do is stay cool till 2005. Will you make it 10 months?
Though he pleaded guilty to the embezzlement charges and received probation, the public shaming ignited a deep, smoldering resentment of Madalyn within Waters. In August of 95, Madalyn, her son John Garth Murray, and her granddaughter Robin Murray O'Hare disappeared from their Austin, Texas home. A typewritten note was left on the door of the American Atheist office, stating that the family had been called away on an emergency and did not know how long they would be gone. This sudden departure left behind personal belongings, including their passports, medications, and their cherished dogs, raising suspicions.
One of their employees whose name was Spike Tyson.
Hell yeah.
I thought you would enjoy that.
I hope that was a given name and not a nickname.
Incredible. Well, Spike Tyson goes to check on him and is like, well, the dogs are here. And then like 2 days after they go missing, the animal hospital gets a call from Robin. They said, quote, sounding very upset, saying, hey, we had to leave town on a family emergency. Can somebody go and get my dogs? And so the animal hospital went and got the dogs. And then I think the cleaning people got a third dog that was maybe couldn't stay at the hospital. But it's kind of weird that it looks like they suddenly left, but then also they're like calling people.
Yeah. And would you really leave without your medication and your passport, especially if you're headed to New Zealand, allegedly?
Right.
Anytime things like that are left behind. But one of the biggest red flags to me is pets. If like the pets are left behind or they're found somewhere, I feel like that's an immediate red flag.
And that's what when the police were talking with, I think Spike Tyson, he was like, there was like dog droppings in Robin's room and they were obsessed with those dogs. That would never happen. Like they constantly were like catering to the dog's needs.
And you wouldn't go to town and leave them.
And then call upset and being like, can somebody come get my dogs, please? They're at the house alone. It's like, why are they at the house alone, Robin?
Yeah. That always makes me so sad because the dogs don't know.
They didn't. Yeah, they think their family left.
You know? It's like that Freaky Friday we read from Katie where she was like, I don't want my dog to think I just left. So
let it see me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we all have pets we love. It is one of those things that they're definitely thinking about in the situation they're in. And it would be very upsetting to know that things you love that depend solely on you to survive are not being taken care of.
Especially because, like they said, Madalyn was nicer to the dogs than she was anybody else. And if she was going to flee the country, she would have taken the dogs.
Hell yes.
Every trip they had, it was like, what arrangements are being made for the dogs?
Yeah. In the days following their disappearance, John Garth Murray contacted a jeweler in San Antonio to purchase $600,000 worth of gold coins, retrieving $400,000 of them shortly after. Subsequent phone calls from John and Robin to American Atheist employees and friends were characterized by tension and evasiveness, failing to clarify their abrupt departure or indicate a return date. After September 28, 1995, all communication ceased, deepening the mystery surrounding their whereabouts.
Because they said when John Garth was on the phone, he was kind of tense, which he was always tense. He basically ran everything as Madalyn's health declined. He was just like, he ran everything from the office and the house. So he was just constantly exhausted. They said that he just looked bedraggled. So on the phone, just being like, just do this for me. Can you just send me this? It was normal. But they said for Robin, she was normally a little bit more chipper and that she sounded like distressed. And that at one point, an employee named Ellen Johnson said, you know, what's going on? Like, you want to tell me something? And Robin's like, I just know you'll do the right thing. And Ellen's like, what? And she said she thought later maybe she was talking in code. She's like, are you being held hostage? And Robin said, if I was, how could I tell you?
Oh, well,
so like
I
stuff
think
like
that's a yes.
But the crazy thing is like you want to continue the face of this organization and not make it look like the organization has tumbled if they have fled the country. So Ellen Johnson was kind of higher up and kept telling the media like, they're fine. Everything's fine. They're out of town. They already told you what's going on.
If somebody asks you, are you being held hostage? And then you reply, how could I tell you if I was? They're being held hostage.
Right? And that's what John Garth was like, send me all the blank checks. And Ellen goes, how do I know you don't have a gun to your head? And he's like, I guess you don't.
And I do.
Yeah.
Law enforcement officials initially exhibited a lack of urgency regarding the disappearance, partly due to the Murray O'Hare's controversial public personas and the absence of overt signs of foul play. Given Madalyn's notoriety, some hypothesized that the family had been abducted by individuals antagonistic to their atheist activism. However, no ransom demands were made, which is atypical in kidnapping cases. William J. Murray, Madalyn's estranged son who had converted to Christianity, appeared indifferent to their sudden absence. He delayed filing a missing persons report, stating in an interview with the Austin Chronicle,
I don't want to search for people who don't want to be found. And yeah,
that's his prerogative. You know, they're on the outs at this point. They don't have, they didn't split on amicable terms.
No, and she would visit areas like near him and was not like, well, Bill lives nearby. It was just like, he's dead to me. The Christians got a hold of him. He said in a separate interview, because like right there, John Garth's cell phone stopped working September 29th. That was like the last call was like around noon. And then after that, that's when the colleagues started getting worried and stuff. But Bill goes, she really liked cryogenics. I wouldn't be surprised if she was sitting frozen in the back of a van somewhere. So he was out like publicly throwing these things out. I'm like, dog, you don't know that. You don't know though. I mean, I know y'all don't, fuck with your mom anymore.
Yeah.
But other people do. And like, also whomever did whatever to her, we want to find them.
How would you be cryogenically frozen in the back of a van? That implies that one, you have died and someone has put you in a block of ice, or you aren't dead, but you're suffering inside of a block of ice. None of that really makes sense to me.
No, it sounds not at all. It's more like a flippant son who's like, listen, I don't give a fuck. She could be fucking in a block of ice somewhere.
The investigation was slow to develop, and law enforcement initially showed little interest in pursuing the family's disappearance. It wasn't until journalist John McCormick of the San Antonio Express-News began digging into the case that real progress was made. As McCormick recalled in a speech,
American atheists had really downplayed it. There were no cries of help or alarm, nothing, just silence.
His editor casually suggested he look into the case in August of '96, a year after they went missing. What started as a routine anniversary article on their disappearance turned into a years-long investigation that broke the case wide open.
Yeah, I mean, as a journalist, you're like, this ain't adding up. He's like, the facts are saying one thing, but the employee is like, she's fine. Everything's 10 months even as far as she was gone.
And it's like, where are they? I don't know, but they're fine. No, you got to provide some answers or no one else believes that.
No. And if anybody's an aspiring journalist out there, like be the John McCormack, who was like, his assignment was like a simple, like they were missing and it happened. It was weird. And he's like, no, it's real weird. And I'm going to fucking find out what happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's like your own backyard or any of those cases where it's like, this is easily solvable if people just really dug into it. And it takes someone that's like, and I'm going to be that person because the police didn't do it.
Tenacious for sure. Sinisterhood will be right back.
You know how cats have opinions about their food? One day they love it, the next day they act like you've personally offended them. That's why Smalls has been such a game changer.
Smalls cat food is made with real, high-quality ingredients. No weird byproducts, no mystery meat, no preservatives with names that sound like a science experiment. Just fresh, protein-packed recipes that cats actually want to eat.
And it's not just us saying that. Smalls was even named Best Overall Cat Food by Cats.com.
Hell yeah.
Which I think only cats use. So you know that it's legit. Plus, it's super convenient. It's delivered right to your door, so you don't have to make any last-minute pet store runs while Fluffy is just meow, meow, meow the entire time until you get back.
Kitty. It's my pot pie. Well, Smalls started in 2017 with a couple of guys home cooking cat foods for their friends. Now they've served millions of meals to cats across the U.S. Because here's the thing. Cats may act like they're tiny royalty, but they still need real protein-packed meals to stay healthy.
And the proof is in the results. 88% of cat owners who switched to Smalls saw health improvements, from shinier coats to better digestion.
And you're thinking, well, my cat loves their kibble. Smalls even makes the perfect topper to ease them into a fresh diet.
And the best part, you can try Smalls risk-free. If your cat doesn't love it, they'll refund you. But let's be real, your cat is about to get very picky about what they eat.
What are you waiting for? Give your cat the food they deserve. Head to smalls.com and use promo code CREEPY at checkout for 50% off your first order plus free shipping. That's the best offer you'll find, but you have to use our code CREEPY for 50% off your first order.
One last time, that's promo code CREEPY for 50% off your first order plus free shipping.
Sinisterhood will be right back.
For over a year, authorities believed the Murray O'Hares had voluntarily disappeared, possibly fleeing to New Zealand with embezzled money. However, McCormick and private investigator Tim Young discovered a key financial clue. $600,000 had gone missing from one of the organizations controlled by the family. McCormick recalled later.
Now you have $600,000 plus 3 missing atheists, which is a lot more potential for a good story.
The missing funds raised suspicions that something more than a voluntary disappearance had taken place. McCormick kept pushing, requesting 990 tax forms from O'Hare's organizations. In those documents, he found financial statements indicating the money had been transferred into gold coins. It was a game-changing discovery. If the Murray O'Hares had stolen the money, they should have been using it. Yet they had vanished without spending a cent.
And he also made the point of it's heavy as shit. And like John
Right.
Garth wasn't in the best health. Robin was like, fine, but she can't carry $600,000
What do you
of
got,
gold.
a treasure chest you're lugging around behind
It's
you?
a big ass suitcase that weighs 300 pounds.
Yeah. And I mean, gold coins are cool and all, but we're not pirates, so we don't really trade in that. So at some point you got to convert it. And if they haven't like contacted their Cayman bank accounts, you know, to do all of that, it's pretty sus.
Yeah, I mean, especially this guy's just following threads, and he's like, the thread I followed is that it became gold and then nothing. And where their cars are, where they are, we don't know.
Despite these red flags, Austin police largely dismissed the case as a voluntary disappearance. This lack of urgency frustrated investigators like Young, who had come to believe the Murray O'Hares were not in hiding, but dead. McCormick later credited Young with keeping the investigation alive, attributing success to
not only his encouragement, but his skills. And man, if you got a dogged reporter paired up with like a skillful ass private investigator, game over. These two are doing it. Like,
one, you get a show on NBC, and two, you're probably gonna solve this.
Yeah, right. I mean, they're not interested in the ins and outs of like, oh well, they probably whatever. It's like, well, we're just following the evidence, and it's like that's kind of what every investigator should do.
Yeah, they don't have a dog
Agenda.
in the hunt really. They just want the truth. So it's a fresh set of unbiased eyes. When you come upon something and you're like, these people are obviously dead, and like no one is saying that, but clearly they are. I mean, it just eats at you that we gotta let everyone know this is what happened. So there's some semblance of resolution and justice, hopefully.
Right, especially if it's like a violent thing that happened to him. And McCormick said when he got the assignment from his editor, he was like, "What? She's missing?" Like he's like he didn't. He goes, "Oh yeah, I don't know. I just thought she was like at it." He said he kind of kept up with her, but not really. But that's how like little it was being reported. And then of course you start to look at the evidence and go, "Oh, she's like missing."
Interest in the case was building. On June 1st, 1998, ABC's Nightline program aired an episode on the family's disappearance. McCormick and Young both appeared, sharing what they knew about the money maneuvers and the large purchase of gold. Young described how they reviewed the 200 phone calls made from Garth's cell phone while the family was at the motel in San Antonio. Calls revealed the money came from an offshore account in New Zealand in the name of the United Secularists of America. A San Antonio-based jeweler described meeting Garth at a bank with 2 Samsonite briefcases full of the $500,000 in gold coins, $100,000 short of what Garth had asked for. Garth wasn't upset when the jeweler told him the shipment was short, and he'd call later in the week to deliver the rest. When the jeweler called Garth back 3 days later to deliver the remainder, there was no answer. The jeweler never heard from Garth again. A San Antonio man also told Nightline reporters how he purchased Garth's Mercedes just 5 days after the family went missing, but he didn't buy it from anyone in the Murray O'Hare family. The seller was a stocky man, about 5'4", with blondish curly hair who looked like a weightlifter. This was a drastically different description from John Garth Murray, who was a tall, heavy-set man with dark hair and a mustache. Nightline engaged a police sketch artist to complete a composite of the mystery seller. The car buyer took one look and confirmed,
"Pretty damn close." And yeah, it looks nothing like John Garth Murray whatsoever. I mean, like he had a mustache. This guy doesn't. I mean, hair's different, height's different.
so then you're like 2 feet difference in height.
Yeah. And you're like, so the jeweler saw John Garth and met him because he knew him and they've seen each other. But then this random person that's going to buy the car, like buys the car from some stranger that like people around American Atheists are like, we don't know who that is. Like that doesn't match anybody we've ever seen. We're not sure. So, and then Robin's Porsche, was parked at the airport and everything. So again, it's kind of like John McCormick and Tim Young's like, you can't just go, who knows why they did that? It's like, we have to know who that guy is. And the cops never bothered to like look into who it was. Later, Austin PD was like, not our finest hour. I was like, that's an understatement. That's an understatement.
At least they took some accountability, but it was too little too late at that point. The major breakthrough came the same month that the story aired. Later in June, McCormick received an anonymous phone call that told him
it was a kidnapping.
The caller added that the man who orchestrated it was named David and that he had, quote, infiltrated the organization. The caller couldn't remember if the last name was Waters or Walters, but McCormick instantly recognized who it could be. David Waters, the former office manager of American Atheist, who had a violent criminal history and an explosive temper. After his embezzlement conviction, Madalyn's public rebuke in the newsletter led to a deep-seated resentment in Waters. The anonymous caller also mentioned Danny Fry, a short, stocky blonde con man from Florida who had come to Texas in 1995 to help Waters with the scheme. He'd vanished at the same time as the Murray O'Hares and looked suspiciously like the composite sketch of the man who sold Garth's car. Now, McCormick's investigation focused on 2 parallel disappearances, the Murray O'Hares and Danny Fry.
And when McCormick went to go check, there had been a missing persons report filed on Danny Fry in early October 1995, which is, and then another, which was from his brother, and another was from his estranged daughter in mid 1996. So people were looking for him, but nobody was connecting any kind of dots or whatever until that Nightline, which we've linked it in the show notes. It's fascinating to watch. First of all, it's got old commercials in it too,
nice.
Which is cool. But it's crazy to see the sketches on TV. And like it's kind of America's Most Wanted style. Like that helps. So like that gets. I think that's why McCormick and Young were wanting to go on the show to try to kind of push it along.
Oh yeah.
Meanwhile, the cops aren't.
Any eyeballs you can get on it and get the picture out there. And even Danny Fry's family, like maybe they weren't looking for him every day, but they were like, something isn't right. Like something's going on. Meanwhile, the American Atheists are just like, I don't know. Everything's great. We asked them if they'd been held hostage. They said, well, how do we tell you? And then we just said, bye.
Yeah, we just hung up the phone and everyone quit their job. And because it was like, well, we don't have any work to do because the people that run it aren't here. So, I mean, it kind of it made its way into other organizations. But yeah, it's like pure chaos. But Danny Fry's brother was like, yeah, the last thing he told me was he was working a job with a guy and said, quote, these people are animals. They're brutal. So, and then you don't hear from your brother.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to call it in.
You'd never want to hear that.
No.
By mid-1999, the FBI had taken over the case. They raided Waters' apartment and discovered illegal firearms, which they used to charge and detain him on weapons violations. Investigators also identified a man named Gary Carr as an associate. Carr had a history of violent crimes, including kidnapping and rape. In 1999, authorities contacted Carr in Walled Lake, Michigan, for questioning. Initially reluctant, Carr eventually disclosed information about the Murray O'Hair family's abduction and murder, including Waters' involvement and where the crimes had taken place. Carr was later indicted by a grand jury.
Yeah, they showed up at his house because they ended up tracking down that David Waters knew this guy, and then they tracked down a watch, Rolex watch with a serial number that there's pictures of Madalyn wearing it. She wrote about the watch in her will, and it had been sold. Gary Carr,
just like that car.
Right, but Gary Carr sold it to his own sister. He didn't give it to his sister. He sold it to his sister, which I was like, that tells you something about a person.
Yeah.
But I mean, once they were like, listen, you sold this dead lady's Rolex, like, come on. And then he sort of started, they said he slumped back on his couch, was smoking his Winstons and was like, all right, what do you want to know? And then just started spilling. And his main concern was JoJo, his parrot. And they said,
see, again, the pets are what gets even the most hardened people can find some companionship in pets. More so than people most times.
Indeed. And then he told the FBI, before you take me away, can I let it free? And they said yes.
Oh,
and
no.
Gary Carr, fuck you for a lot of reasons, but also for letting JoJo loose because
he probably thought he was doing a good job.
A favor, but hopefully JoJo found a new life somewhere. But that's the idea of like, to me, it's like the flippancy of someone that's just like, yeah, this is what we did. This is the crime. Yeah, we killed him. Whatever. What do you want to know? Oh, can I get my parrot out? That's okay. Yeah, that's your concern. Sure.
The truth of what happened to the family finally emerged during the trial of Gary Carr in June of 2000. He faced charges including conspiracy to commit extortion, traveling interstate to commit violent acts, money laundering, interstate transportation of stolen property, and conspiracy to kidnap. The proceedings against Carr also served as a de facto trial for Waters, who remained jailed on the weapons charges and refused to speak about any involvement with the Murray O'Hair incidents. As reported by the Austin Chronicle, Carr's trial focused on a grisly plot by greedy thieves to separate Madalyn from her money using Waters' inside knowledge.
And that's kind of what the FBI is able to do on the front end to get a hold of you and take their time to build a case. They found a picture of David Waters at a shooting range with a gun, which he was a felon in possession. So he got locked up on firearms charges, and they sort of sat on him and were pressuring. And he's like, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I didn't have anything to do with it. Meanwhile, you have Carr, who's like, it was him. He planned the whole thing. He was the one that did it. And I think once you meet Gary Carr, you kind of go, yeah, he's not going to know about gold coins in New Zealand and these bank accounts. Like, he's obviously not the one, but he was the only one that was talking, and they still didn't know where the bodies were. So at this point, it's like, we're going to go on what we have. Jerry Caruth was the U.S. attorney who was like, we got to go with what we have, and we're going to use this to push to basically show David Waters, we're going to get this guy, and we have less on him than we even have on you.
Yeah. I mean, Carr's just somebody that got dragged into this. Waters clearly has like a direct relationship and a former employee. So, yeah, I mean, come on.
What do you think? What do you think's going to happen, man?
What are you doing? You're just biding time. The evidence showed that between August 27th and September 29th of 1995, Madalyn, Garth, and Robin endured a harrowing ordeal focused on extorting their offshore money. On August 27th, the Murray O'Hair family was abducted from their home in Austin and transported to San Antonio, around 100 miles away. There, they were confined in a hotel room at the Warren Inn.
And Waters' plan, it turns out is what Gary Carr alleged and what they said was, we're going to treat him really well. And because they're in trouble with this offshore money, they're not going to rat anybody. They're not going to rat us out. And if they do and come out and say, we were abducted and everyone was super nice to us and let us stay in a hotel with a pool and watch TV, they're going to sound crazy and not believe them. So then we can just abscond with the money and everybody's happy.
Well, I don't know if that worked out for them.
No, but what an interesting plan that you're like, it'll be fine. We'll just kidnap him, be really nice to him, and let him loose, and then everything will be cool. It's like, what?
Most people that commit crimes like this are very short-sighted. They know their goal, which is to get the money, but beyond that, they're floundering, and that's where they always get caught because you couldn't possibly think of all the things, or you just have this stupid idea in your head and you're arrogant. You think you can, trick everybody.
Yeah. I mean, to get with your kidnappers and be like, hey, we have a 2-bedroom hotel room. You are going to be in one room and the kidnappers are going to be in the other room and we're all going to sleep together. And Waters later said, believe it or not, it was almost like a family situation. And like they would play cards and Madalyn she loved to debate and she would debate Carr and trick him into debates and piss him off and make fun of him and make him sound stupid, which is not what I would do if someone had a gun on me. But Madalyn Murray O'Hair is tougher than me. So
during this period, Garth contacted a San Antonio jeweler to purchase the gold coins, ultimately taking delivery of $500,000 worth. This transaction was coerced by the kidnappers as part of their extortion plan. Throughout their captivity, the Murray O'Hairs were forced to maintain a facade of normalcy via multiple phone calls to the organization, where you sound tense and stressed and maybe you're trying to say something without saying something because someone's in the same hotel room as you.
Right. And people asked, kind of like, why didn't Garth just like freak out and fight them or say something on the phone or whatever? And Waters just said, like, I feel like he trusted me. I trusted him. And it is kind of a mindfuck that like your old coworker that you were like cool with until he stole 50 G's from you, all of a sudden is back. But also, that your old coworker has killed people before and pissed on his own mom after he kicked her down the stairs. So he's probably willing to just kill your mom. So I don't really blame Garth.
It's kind of like a Stockholm syndrome situation. I mean, if you're stuck for a month in the same room as people, at some point, if no one's being violent, like outwardly, maybe you start playing cards. You got to do something to pass the time. And then you start talking and you find out stuff about their life and you maybe develop a friendship. Maybe not a friendship, but
a feeling, some type of
relationship where you're like, I think I can get out of this. I think we're getting to a point where like he's going to soften and let me
give him his money.
Yeah, like to not like fight them or do anything violent. What my only thinking is, you would be thinking this is going to end. I don't want to do anything to make it worse and possibly get killed. So I'm just going to play it cool.
Yeah, I'm going to try what I can to keep the peace. They said that Danny Fry in particular was like in awe of Madalyn and wanted to sit at her feet and like hear stories about her life. Because I mean, by then, she's got a world of info. Like, what's Johnny Carson like? I mean, you literally can ask this person cool questions, and that Danny bonded really well with Robin, that they would like sit by the pool together and chat. But then Waters kind of saw they were all getting a little too friendly, like, talking and chatting with each other. And so he was like, yeah, we got to put a stop to that. Like, we need to be more professional kidnappers. I don't know. Sinisterhood will be right back. Here's the deal. You try to find a bra that you like, that fits, that doesn't make you look terrible or feel terrible or spill out everywhere. And it's such a struggle to find one that also does not do all that and lifts. And the ultimate push-up bra from Skims is the push-up bra I need. It's the only one.
Ticked all the boxes?
All the boxes are ticked.
Ticked all of your boxes. Well, I have to agree. The push-up bra is great. The pajamas and loungewear are great. I wear them regularly to the point where I got to order more because I need like Monday through Friday.
Yeah,
Monday through Sunday.
It stands to reason that a place that makes something as comfortable as the lounge outfit, as comfortable as the bralette, you're like, the ultimate push-up can't also be that comfortable, but it is, because that's what Skims do. The rumors are true. If you got to get you a push-up bra, you might as well get one that doesn't pinch, poke, or make you look frumpy when you wear it.
I've heard from the hip people that push-up bras are back. They're back, baby.
You think they never left? They did for me, but now they are back for sure.
If you need a little lift and you're like, well, I'm not going to go under the knife, just get yourselves a Skims push-up bra and it'll just lift you right up. You'll look like you got a boob job.
Cheaper than a doctor, certainly.
100%. And less downtime.
Absolutely. No one knows.
Shop the Skims Ultimate Bra Collection and more at skims.com and Skims stores. After you place your order, be sure to let them know we sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select our show in the drop-down menu that follows.
Sinisterhood will be right back.
According to statements made later by Waters, but not used at trial, Carr allegedly made aggressive sexual advances toward Robin during their captivity. This behavior started at the Murray O'Hare's residence in Austin, where Carr and Robin were alone in a bedroom, and was reportedly a recurring issue throughout the month-long abduction. During their stay at the Warren Inn in San Antonio, Waters claimed that Carr repeatedly threatened to sexually assault Robin. These threats contributed to the tension and fear experienced by the Murray O'Hare family during their captivity. After securing the gold coins, the abductors decided to kill the O'Hare family to cover their tracks. According to later confessions, Garth was killed first, followed by Madalyn and Robin. The method of murder was strangulation. The bodies were then dismembered and stored in barrels before being buried at the ranch. The burial location was not known to police at the time of Carr's trial.
Yeah, when they picked him up and he was confessing, Carr was like, yeah, let me draw you a map. And he tried to draw a map, and there was a huge search, Easter 1999. So the trial was in 2001. And at this huge weekend search, there was like helicopters, police, Texas Rangers, FBI, everybody, and dug and dug and dug, and they never found anything. And John McCormack was like, obviously we want to find the bodies, but man, if it would have said atheist rises from her grave on Easter, like that would have been the most epic headline.
God
but
damn.
They unfortunately did not find them before Carr's trial. So that's kind of a struggle as a prosecutor, that you're trying to prove that someone killed. So that's why it's not a murder trial, right?
Yeah.
Like they have, even though he's saying they were killed, I didn't do it. But the whole him sexually assaulting Robin, or wanting to, or kind of attacking her, Waters was like, he was the loose wire. Like they both kind of point to each other. According to Carr, Waters was this cold, calculated, like, let's take the money and kill these people. And according to Waters, Carr was like this crazed sex predator, violent. And Carr says what we just said, that Garth was killed first, followed by Madalyn and Robin. According to Waters, he says he came back from running an errand and found Robin's lifeless body and confronted Carr, who said, yes, I was attacking her. I strangled her. It went too far. We're going to have to just do this all now. And then that's when they went on to kill Garth and Madalyn. So regardless of the order or the reasoning, I mean, it's like, y'all were both still there. You both still did it. But it's like they're both trying to like avoid almost like moral culpability. Like we were there to steal, okay? The killing wasn't me.
Well, also in a trial, if you were the one to actually do it, you're going to get a bigger sentence than if you just came back. I guess the only people that truly know, no one else will except for the people that were there.
Mm-hmm.
The men headed to Waters' apartment in Austin after burying the bodies. Fry's visible distress over the dismemberment prompted Waters and Carr to conclude that he posed as a liability. Waters shot Fry in the head, and Carr subsequently removed Fry's head and hands to hinder identification. They disposed of Fry's body near the Trinity River in Dallas County, where it was discovered in October of 1995, but wasn't identified until 3 years later, thanks to McCormack's efforts.
And kind of the key witness was David Waters' ex, Colleen, who testified at this trial, who was basically saying, I saw this article that John McCormack identified this body in Dallas as Danny Fry. I knew Danny Fry when he was rolling with these dudes. He was a nice guy. And she said, John McCormack changed my whole paradigm. He's the reason why I came forward. And she was like borderline complicit in all the stealing stuff, helping them like sign for storage units and sign for cars and rental cars.
Possibly a victim herself.
Yeah, and that she really was. And that's what kind of the defense attorney tried to go, you were a part of this, you like bad boys and whatever. And she's like, David Waters beat the shit out of me.
Yeah.
He stabbed me. His ex-wife would say, yes, he was an abusive guy. So it's not like, I don't think she was happily going with it. I think she was afraid that if she came forward, what would happen. And then once Waters was up on the weapons charge, Gary Carr is now on trial for this, she felt comfortable finally coming forward because, yeah, a person who's just capable of going and snatching up an elderly lady and like holding them for that long and doing what he did.
Another example, too, of someone being willing to talk to a journalist over the cops. You know,
Yeah,
he made
it was
her
like
comfortable.
Yeah, it made her say like, "Oh my gosh," like it almost puts a face with it. She's like, hearing what they did to Danny, like,
Yeah.
I couldn't be quiet.
Carr was convicted in June of 2000 on charges including conspiracy to commit extortion, traveling interstate to commit violent acts, money laundering, and interstate transportation of stolen property. Although acquitted of conspiracy to kidnap due to the absence of the victims' bodies at the time, Carr's extensive criminal history led to a mandatory life sentence under the federal three strikes law. In 2021, his life sentence was reduced to 50 years following a resentencing hearing. In January of 2001, after Carr's conviction, Waters was faced with mounting evidence and a long prison sentence. He entered into an agreement, pleading guilty to a single count of conspiracy to interfere with commerce by robbery and extortion. In exchange, he led police to the victims' remains. On a ranch near Campwood, Texas, investigators unearthed 3 dismembered bodies. Using serial numbers from Madalyn's metal replacement hip, forensic experts positively identified the remains as Madalyn Murray O'Hair, John Garth Murray, and Robin Murray O'Hair.
Yeah, I was like, David Waters saw the writing on the walls. All the warrants, just like detailed completely everything he had done. And I think he was facing already a huge sentence he was on deferred adjudication for the theft, the state charges. And now you're also facing federal charges. It's kind of like an Alec Murdaugh situation where you're like, let me just plead everything down because I'm going to die in prison regardless. But let's just plea it out to like save the trial.
Yeah. It is always interesting when it's like, you're going to be in prison no matter what. So you're kind of just wasting a bunch of money and resources. But he led them to the bodies, which is, for family members and those wanting closure, McCormick especially, it's something.
Yeah. The prosecutor, the U.S. attorney was like, when they asked him, why did you let him plead out? He was like, you do the math. He said he's 54. He didn't mention that he had hepatitis C, but he was, not in great health. He's like, he's 54. He's facing 20 unparoled years, 8 more unparoled years, plus a 60-year state sentence. So like, he's already in jail for the rest of his life. Like, we just want to know where the bodies are so we can close this case.
Yeah, for sure. In exchange for his cooperation with authorities, Waters received a 20-year federal prison sentence. This sentence was to run concurrently with the prior 60-year state sentence for the earlier embezzlement from American Atheist. Waters was also ordered to pay restitution, totaling over $500,000, to American Atheist and the estates of the Murray O'Hair family members. He was never tried for the murders themselves. Waters died of lung cancer on January 27, 2003, while incarcerated in a federal facility in North Carolina.
And it's wild. It's just that quick. It's over. Like 2003. I mean, it's like 2 or 3 years after he's getting caught and everything. So he really spent like no time in jail.
It's like our boy Raphael Rowe on all the Inside the World's Toughest Prisons said, like a year in prison medically and health-wise, especially if you're already struggling, is like 10 years off your life,
Yeah. He was already not doing well. So I think that's probably why the U.S. attorney was like, that's fine. I just want to know where the bodies are.
Yeah. And then after a couple years, he's like, I told you so.
Yep. He's like, there he goes, death sentence. And it wasn't even me.
The fate of the gold coins that the Murray O'Hairs were forced to withdraw is almost as bizarre as their disappearance. Garth had primarily purchased Krugerrands, Canadian maple leafs, and American Eagle gold coins from the San Antonio jeweler. Waters stored the coins in a rented storage unit in Austin, locked behind a standard lock, and believed they were safely hidden. But in a bizarre twist of bad luck for the criminals, a group of small-time thieves who specialized in breaking into storage lockers happened to rob that exact unit, unknowingly hitting a jackpot. They made off with the coins. After quickly cashing them in, they blew the stash mostly in Las Vegas. When the FBI later tracked the stolen funds, they were only able to recover a single gold coin that had been turned into a pendant.
This is why we love John McCormack, though, because at Carr's trial, they had the thieves, like the three guys. There were like these like 20-something guys from San Antonio who said like, our friend, our buddy Joe or whatever gave us this key that's master lock brand and it can open any master lock. So they said they remembered the day because
Some
it was
Hogwarts
the day.
shit.
It's so funny. They're just besties. He goes, we remember the day because it was the day of the O.J. Simpson verdict. So to celebrate the
perhaps
verdict,
that does stick in your mind as a milestone.
Like, everybody else is out talking about the verdict. We started hitting storage units, and they hit one location of storage units and kind of crappy stuff. And then they said they went to the second location, and the first door they opened at the second location was this big ass suitcase. And they're like, okay. And they try to pick it up, and they're like, fuck, it's like, it won't move. So then when they move into their car, they're like, it's all these gold coins. And they said they blew it at like, obviously like strip clubs, gambling, roulette table.
Just throwing coins up on the stage, and everyone's like, ow, stop.
Like, I'm going to put this in my eye. They're falling out.
Only. These are cold.
I look like a slot machine when I shake it. It's just money coming out. But no, they said, on the stand, the attorney goes, do you have anything to show for it? And the guy goes, a 3-year-old daughter. So he's went wild in Vegas. But John McCormack was like, bullshit. Like, despite them testifying, like, it was a whoopsie, we just found the money. John McCormack asked the FBI, like, are you sure it was just them? And they said, we have no further statements to say on this matter. And then McCormack went and traced that, like, October 95, David Waters and his wife did a big shopping. They did a big trip to Florida, did a big shopping spree there. They were selling gold coins at Christmas 95. The next year, there were gold coins in their apartment that someone saw. He bought a computer in like 1998 he did not have a job, but he bought a brand new state-of-the-art computer. He got the internet turned on at his house. Like, he bought a $5,000 painting from an Austin painter in late 1998. Again, this is a man that has not had a job since he was fired from American Atheist 3 years earlier. People are like, you find 3 small-time crooks, give them a key and go, hey, go pick up coins from the storage locker. I'll give you $100,000 to do this, and say you took it to Vegas or actually go to Vegas. Here, go blow this.
You can do a lot with 100,000 gold coins in Vegas. But where do you trade them in for cash?
I like a jewelry store. I think you sell them. You have to, it's like selling them, like how John Garth originally did it.
I guess it's just, unless you're like John Garth, where he knew the jeweler and had like a, relationship and knew this guy wasn't a thief. If anyone walked in with a bunch of gold coins and just smacks it up there, it takes 3 guys to lift up the suitcase. I feel like the people that working there should have a responsibility to maybe like contact somebody about that.
If you're at Caesar's Palace and someone has a canvas bag with a $$ sign on it and then is like, here's my deposit for 3 nights, you have to be like, what is this? Are you
a robber from the cartoons? What's happening?
Exactly. Sinisterhood will be right back.
Well, as we all know, I am obsessed with hero bread. And the other night, I had a delicious wrap with their tortillas. And let me just tell you, usually if you have a low-carb wrap, when you try and wrap it, it just kind of falls apart. Like, pieces are coming off. It breaks in the middle because it's a weird consistency. Not with Hero. They say not all heroes wear capes. And that's true, because my bagel and loaf and wraps don't wear capes, yet they are all heroes in my book.
That is the magic of hero bread. With Hero, you can focus on your health goals and still indulge in that soft, fluffy experience you love, like enjoying a nutritious breakfast wrap, a wrap like Christy had, avocado toast, grilled cheese with some soup, or family burger night. Their products are delicious and flavorful, but have ultra low net carbs, 0 grams of sugar, and are high in fiber. I know Paris, we always talk about it. Paris noshes down on those bagels. You still loving those?
Oh, yeah. The bagels, the hamburger buns. We've done family burger night with them, too. The kids love it. No one in the house has ever said anything but positive, glowing reviews about Hero, from the 4-year-old to the 46-year-old. Everybody loves it.
And you'd never know it's low carb and high fiber bread from that texture. Get the soft, fluffy experience you know and love with your next savory breakfast sandwich, late night grilled cheese, or family Taco Tuesday. You've done burger night. You got Taco Tuesday coming up.
Taco Tuesday too. Get monthly small batch drops of indulgent favorites like their 4G net carb bagel, and new surprises coming this year.
Hero Bread is offering 10% off your order. Go to hero.co. Use code CREEPY at checkout.
That's creepy at HERO.co.
Sinisterhood will be right back.
In accordance with her wishes, Madalyn was cremated alongside John and Robin without any religious ceremony. The 3 boxes were interred together in a burial vault at an undisclosed location. Her son, William Murray, was the sole family member present during the cremation. He ensured Madalyn's final wishes were carried out, despite the years of estrangement and ideological division that had defined their relationship. At the time of their deaths, Madalyn was 76, her son John Garth Murray was 40, and her granddaughter, Robin Murray O'Hare, was just 30. All 3 had become the face of American atheists.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if you have disdain, he still, I think, felt a connection to them. And they said it almost felt wrong to separate Madalyn and John Garth because they were literally like, he was, every single description of him was like mama's boy, loved mom, would do anything for mom. And Robin, even though that's his daughter, like that's crazy that Bill is like had no relationship with his 30-year-old daughter pretty much. And because of this other woman, and he's still, I'm not saying Bill Murray is a great Bill Murray. I'm not saying William J. Murray is some saint, but he did, he's like fulfilled his final, his mom's final wish, which I'm pretty sure was, I don't want a bunch of people playing a bunch of dumb music and trying to sum up my life.
Yeah, so. I'm not trying to have scripture read. It's a turn from, I don't know, she's probably in the back of a van in a frozen huge ice cube to where now the reality of what really happened, and one of them is your daughter, sets in. And, I mean, that changes anyone.
I think so. And especially knowing what they went through beforehand, as even if in the early days it was kind of like wacky, madcap fun, like at the very least, his daughter was like attacked multiple times, attempted to be attacked multiple times. So I feel like he probably wanted to close that chapter on his life. But Bill has said in subsequent interviews and whatnot, like he thought that at the beginning that Madalyn and John Garth kind of were happy with the Waters thing because they were going to move to New Zealand anyway, and it was going to kind of give him an excuse to like leave the country.
Interesting that they chose New Zealand even back then.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they had some money stored off.
Where all the billionaires go.
They're like, we're going to escape to this beautiful place. But yeah, he just said he figured that John Garth was super docile because no matter what Mama said, he did.
Yeah, and given that what the 3 of them had, gone through over the past couple months, I think keeping them together, with their cremains, it makes sense.
Yeah, and that's how they spent their lives.
Throughout her life, Madalyn was a prolific writer, authoring 11 books on atheism and secularism, including What on Earth is an Atheist?, Freedom Under Siege, The Impact of Organized Religion on Your Liberty and Your Pocketbook, and Women in Atheism, The Ultimate Liberation. Madalyn's life and activism have been the subject of various documentaries and films. The 2006 documentary, Godless in America, explores her role in the atheist movement and her controversial public persona. In 2011, Good Riddance examined her life and the circumstances surrounding her death. More recently, the 2017 Netflix film, The Most Hated Woman in America, starring Academy Award winner Melissa Leo, dramatized her life and tragic end. Of the role, Leo said,
"Historically, women who have changed the world, women who have spoken loud and clear about their well-founded thoughts and ideas about things, they generally get called pariahs or bitches or troublemakers. Is that who she really is, or is that something she was being to get a point across? If she sat there quietly and politely and spoke about the wrongs of civil rights abuse, who the fuck would listen?"
She's got a good point.
She does. Melissa Leo is great in this movie. And I watched this movie before I even started doing research. And then I went and read this book called America's Most Hated Woman. And this is like an extremely dense book that I couldn't even read the whole thing. I had to read chunks of it. But I was very surprised at how factually accurate the film was to this book, which Anne Rose Seaman wrote. And there's like direct quotes from like a ton of people involved. And it felt like some lines from the movie were almost like direct. So I like a dramatized role that's not only like accurate in facts, but it was also, I feel like Melissa Leo like embodied the Madalyn persona.
Yeah.
Of kind of.
And showed the side of her that was the side that gets you on Johnny Carson, not just, the last month of her life and how terrible that was, but all the incredible movement she made and something
Mhm.
she was very passionate about, especially
And
for women.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like Melissa Leo really got to know Madalyn as a human and understood her humanity and kind of understood what drove her, because that's what makes a really great actor. And I feel like makes a really great role and like an actor in that role, because it's very easy to play her as like, I'm just some big loud lady, but understanding the core, the pain that made her want to be that way. And also the use that she found for her pain that did make her so caustic. But she realized, like, I'm hurting, I can act like this and I get shit done to help people and myself. But because I think there was also a selfish side to her.
Yeah.
But I love this quote, and I love that Melissa Leo.
In recent years, American Atheist has honored Madalyn's legacy by placing granite benches with secular inscriptions outside courthouses across the country, often adjacent to where Ten Commandments monuments have been installed. These atheist benches are engraved with quotes from the U.S. Constitution and prominent figures like Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, emphasizing the separation of church and state. One commonly featured inscription is a quote from Madalyn herself, which reads,
An atheist believes that a hospital should be built instead of a church, that deeds must be done instead of prayers said.
The benches serve as both a legal counterpoint and a physical reminder that non-believers have a place in the public square.
These benches are dope. I think they should go up wherever there's the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, and the 10 Commandments should come down, and we should just have these benches.
Or have no bench. Yeah, or have nothing.
Or
but
have
it's like,
nothing.
If
Just
there's
have
big ass
blank benches and blank plaques.
We're all just happy. Or like, quotes from our founding fathers, because it is, America. We can all agree we're from, but, having it, these huge ass 10 Commandments that says like, thou shalt not, covet thy neighbor's wife or whatever. So on the back of some of the atheist benches, it says what the, punishments are of like death for each of the commandments if you break them, because it's kind of like you're picking this commandments that they're so good, but you're leaving out the part where it's like your hand should be lopped off. And it's like, that's fine if you want to believe it and be a literalist, but like, let's pick a lane. So I love these. I like a spite bench. I think Madalyn would like these spite benches.
I think it's that quote I love too, because I mean, how often do we see, well, our thoughts and prayers are with the victims of the school shooting or insert whatever tragedy we have. And that's not what's going to do anything about it. It's laws, hospitals, and doing actual deeds that's going to change stuff.
And exactly. And to put that into perspective, having this big ass 10 Commandments monument that serves no physical purpose. It's just a big ass monument that just sits there and you can't stand on it. You can't put your purse on it. You can't lean on it. And then to have a useful bench directly next to it that's also a monument. It's like literal, it's her vision in action. And the juxtaposition is mind boggling. And I would say if somebody does believe, I want to have the 10 Commandments or I want to have this, then be thoughtful about ways to serve the community in a way that is bearing witness to this area. Like going, this place could use a bench. Our monument should be a bench. So while we are sharing our beliefs in a way that helps serve the community, in a way that the community is asked for, not put a big ass thing in front, everybody's going to tell their kids what adultery is. You're going to have to teach them what coveting thy neighbor's wife is. It's like,
stand in front of it. We got to get a family pic.
It's pretty much.
Yeah. Madalyn Murray O'Hair was a pivotal figure in American secular activism, leaving a complex legacy that continues to influence discussions on religious freedom and the separation of church and state. Her relentless pursuit of secularism and her confrontational style made her a polarizing figure, earning her both ardent supporters and vehement critics. Nonetheless, her impact on the discourse surrounding religious freedom and secular activism remains undeniable. So what do we think? You said you were looking forward to this.
Oh, I am, because it's one of those complexly emotional cases where I feel like I have a lot of respect for her, because when David Waters walked into her office and she found out shortly after he was hired that he had this criminal record, she brought him into her office. He later alleged because he was being vetted to run away to New Zealand with them, in this embezzlement scheme. But she brought him in her office and said, I want you to know that I know. I know your history. I know your background. And he started as like very briefly as an entry level person and then moved up. And she's like, I want you to know we trust you to like make these check deposits, to do these things because you served your debt to society. I don't want to be the type of person that's like holding a grudge. And like, it sucks because that's what we want, right? You want to be able to do that. And God damn, if David Waters was not a snake the whole time of just watching, I think he was just watching those dollars pass through going, little bit of this could be for me. Oh, whatever, if reality or perception, but in his mind, they were doing shady stuff. And so for him, it was like, oh, well, it's not wrong because they're already stealing. So I'm stealing from the people that are stealing.
Robin Hood character.
Yeah, right. And, I'm going to go buy my leather jacket with the roulette wheel on the back of
But
it.
also, he, from a very early age, showed very violent tendencies. And I think it's very hard for someone that has had a life like that to really do a 180, and especially when you're in a position where it's way too tempting.
Yeah. And I think, it's one thing if it's like, oh, my past, transgressions were these kind of understandable things, but you're right. It was like from the root, this guy has been the makings of a murderer and was very early on a murderer. I don't know that the leopard's going to change their stripes that much other than to try to avoid as many things as he can to get caught, which is what he did in the end. And, he was as slippery at the end as he was at the beginning, getting out of the $54,000 embezzlement. Like he didn't serve hardly any time for that. And so watching the justice system screw up so badly, I think because of who the victims were, because she was not likable. And that's the other root of this is she was a woman who stood on principle and behaved in a way she thought would help move her cause forward. And that is often in a way that is not what Melissa Leo said, like nice and quiet and like, could you please not infringe? Yeah, could you please not infringe on our rights? She was just like, I will kick you in the balls. And that's all well and good for changing the world. But when that comes up against somebody who's like, I'll slash your throat right now. It's like she was I won't say talked a big game, but I think she was a big personality and was able to command people and command a room. And probably for David Waters, there was something to the fact that they strangled her. Like that's a very personal crime. That's a very like silencing type of crime. And if he felt that like she had wrongful authority over him or, working out mom issues or whatever. So the details of them all staying together just lives rent free in my head and is so fascinating and is played out pretty, like I said, fairly accurately in the Melissa Leo film on Netflix, but it just sticks with me.
Wouldn't he be considered a serial killer? Isn't it four murders? Is that the number?
Maybe.
Is that the magic number?
Maybe it has to be in different events.
I don't think so. Does it?
I mean, it makes sense though, because he freely killed that first guy.
Yeah.
And then I think he strangled Madalyn for sure.
We know at least taking part in 4 murders.
Yeah. I think he alleges that he didn't have anything to do with Robin, that Carr did that one, but he said he and Carr were trying to strangle Garth, who started fighting them off, and they really had to like fight him for it. So yeah, it's not like he was like, okay, I just have to, poison them, or I just have to shoot him and get it over with. It was all the times that he killed someone was like physical, personal, violent. Visceral, violent, hands-on.
Dismembering someone.
It's huge. Yeah.
I mean, like they said, even one of them was like very obviously distressed. So he becomes a liability too. But being able to do something like that, it's a small percentage of people that have the stomach or just, can go through with that. So he, I think his end game was always to kill him.
I was like, he wanted to, like I said, it sounded the whole time, which maybe would fit if he has this kind of serial killer-ish personality of like wanting to maintain this facade, much like our twin flames person of like, I'm a nice person. I'm a good person. And it's like, well, the facts and evidence of what you've done sort of disagrees with that. So it's like the whole time of him even confessing or wanting to help them find the bodies, he wanted to frame himself as, well, I wasn't going to kill them until I had to. But like, I feel like you're right. The whole time he knew.
Then when were you going to let him go?
I don't think he was going to.
What were they waiting for to let him go?
I think he wanted the extra 100,000 from the coins that hadn't come, and it was kind of taking too long or whatever. But as soon as, not only that they had the coins, but I think another catalyst for it was, I think David Waters overestimated how much IRS trouble they were in, that the family was not in that bad of trouble with the IRS. There was some like discrepancies and issues that the IRS had questions about, but their attorney called John Garth on September 27th, when the last time they were heard from was the 29th. So like 2 days before, he got a call from the lawyer who goes, by the way, everything with the IRS is going to work out. No worries. We got him to sign a deal. You're not going to get in trouble. It's all great. And so I wonder too, if Waters is kind of like, oh, well, they actually don't need to flee now. This is going to look weird if they are just gone. We're going to have to just off them. I don't know.
And also, I mean, there's 3 criminals, there's 3 victims. If you let those people go, I mean, obviously they're going to probably go to the cops and turn you in. So like, you can't just keep people hostage for a month and then let them go and think like, okay, well, we can all move past that. Like, I mean, I feel like it would be really hard for anybody to get out of that situation alive.
I think so. And other than perhaps Madalyn, you know, as very convincing she was of an arguer, if she just told him, listen, take the money. It was offshore. We didn't know it was there anyway. Like, we were hiding it for ourselves. No worries. Just please don't hurt Robin. Cause she, you know, she loved her daughter or granddaughter and son and everything. But I think Carr made the point to say, I wanted to just treat him like, you know, who gives a shit? Waters wanted to like give them really good food. He would ask them for their requests and was treating them really well. But was he just doing that so that when John Garth got on the phone, he wasn't like, yes, please transfer the money. David Waters has us in a hotel in San Antonio. You know, I think he's trying to play his actions as more altruistic than they were, when in fact they probably were just to get them to be quiet so he could just kill them when it was time.
Or mind fuck.
Yeah.
Psychological type of torture where you're, you know, kind of luring them in, thinking that like, maybe we have a shot at this. We're becoming friends, but it's kind of like fattening the cow for slaughter.
Yeah,
you know?
that's what. Yeah, and he said that exactly. He said John Garth trusted me, and I trusted him, and he knew I would keep my word. And I'm like, yeah, but like he also had to know that you were like a fucking criminal the whole time and had guns on their family.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you're sitting there, and if I'm Madalyn, I'm like, thinking back to that day I called him into my office to be like, I know about your past, and you know, and you're like, I do know about his past. Oh shit.
Yep. And like, I really wish I wouldn't have written that fucking newsletter article, because it's like he pled out for the embezzlement stuff in April. The kidnapping was August. Like, this man was stewing not very long and was like, let's roll. So I think it's, you know, the case of perhaps people that did not keep the cleanest of books. I don't know that they're really like embezzlement. I think they paid themselves a salary out of what they made. And I think they paid themselves a very good salary because they drove Porsches and Mercedes, and, you know, they liked nice vacations, but they would go to like Colonial Williamsburg or like Hawaii. They weren't like, we took a 3-month vacation to all across Asia. You know, they were taking like nice-ish vacations. So I think all the allegations from Waters of like, they were just embezzling all this money is just a way to make himself feel better for what he did to like and for Madalyn, I mean, nobody wants to be killed this way, strangled by a former associate. Health-wise, she was on a downward slope. She was on a decline, you know, suffering with her diabetes, with her heart issues, that she was probably going to die in the next handful of years, but that's not to say, oh, it's fine to go and kill her. No. But I think for him, it was like that in his mind. Well, she's mean. She's a bitch. She made me look bad. And also she's going to die anyway. And she has more money and has been stealing it. Like, it's all the ways that a criminal like him just like
justifies their behavior.
Yeah.
Well,
goddamn.
Her legacy lives on in many ways, through benches and just, you know, laws and bills that we still have that hopefully aren't going to be reversed. You know, what's wild is she was fighting so hard for this, you know, a couple decades ago, and we're still fighting hard for these things, you know?
No, for sure. I think my number one lesson from Madalyn Murray O'Hair is like, it was one pissed off lady that did all this. And like, granted, it ended horribly.
We're 2 pissed off ladies, Heather.
And we have a lot of pissed off friends too. Y'all are listeners. Y'all are
I got a bunch of pissed off people in my life.
But you know, it's like one pissed off lady going, nuh-uh, I'm going to make this work. And at every turn, she was scrappy, she was resourceful, and she was fucking determined. And if you want, I mean, we covered a lot in these 2 episodes, but there's just so much more about like her activism, even before she started American Atheist, and then stuff she did while with American Atheist, in addition to like some of the trials and tribulations, a bunch of stuff with like Larry Flint, even like crazy stuff. So she lived a really badass life, and it is wild the way it ended, especially given how long she had lived. And she had written in her diary at her last vacation, right before, like a month or 2 before she was killed, like, I'm aware of the miracles, bless air conditioning and soft sheets and like automobiles. I have lived a long, long time, she wrote. So she got to see a little bit of what the organization would be, but I'm glad to see it still going.
For sure. Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you, Madalyn, for all you did.
For sure. And for encouraging us to keep those 4-letter words.
Fuck yeah,
Madalyn. Fuck yeah.
This episode of Sinisterhood is made possible with the help of our amazing patrons.
If you're interested in supporting the show, consider joining our Patreon. You'll get access to ad-free regular episodes, weekly bonus content, you're able to vote on episode topics, join our monthly live streams, and more.
Keep it creepy.
Mwahaha.